Section 5 of In Galilee by Thornton Chase. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. In Galilee by Thornton Chase. Section 5. Universal Love. All difference, all lack of harmony, all disunity in the universe is due to lack of love, or to changing universal love into individual love, putting self-interest in the place of the welfare of the whole. But in Abdu'l-Baha is never a trace of self-interest. Each thought, each word of his is for the universal love, the divinity of man in his oneness with mankind. He speaks not from the self, but from the spirit, yet his speech is that of the man, simple, direct, as of a father to his son. Are you well? Are you happy? This would be an oft-repeated greeting. You have come in a good time. Since you have come, the weather has been beautiful. Such simple remarks as these would prelude an instructive discourse of 10 or 15 minutes, or possibly 3 or 4 minutes. We took no note of time. About 9:30 in the evening, he came to Mr. Agnew's room, where we were gathered. He was very tired, and after greeting us, he sat on the divan and called Mr. Scheffler and this servant to sit on either side. He took our hands, and for 15 minutes or more he held them in his, often grasping them with a rapid, strong, vibrating grip while he talked. He said he had been sorely tried that day by strangers, but that for the sake of love he had been most kind to them, as we must ever be, showing the greatest kindness to those who opposed. He said he was now happy in the company of friends, and then he talked again of decomposition and composition, showing that one accompanied disunion, disagreement, and separation, and caused death, but the other brought unification and life. Then abruptly he arose and left us, going to his room, and we also retired for our first night's sleep in the prison city of Acca, in that house where had lived the great manifestation of God, the blessed perfection, Baha'u'llah, with saints and martyrs in the holy cause. In the adjoining room rested the servant of God, Abdu'l-Baha, the faithful, patient establisher of the new kingdom of heaven in the hearts of men. For a while we listened to the sentry on duty at the guarded wall by the sea, chanting his sacred supplications in darkness. And then we slept. Dawn in Acca. It seemed not an hour when I was awakened by a clear, high voice proclaiming between the earth and heaven the oneness of God, chanting the Quran from the high balcony of the nearby minaret. The long, sweet, quivering tones rang through the silent air, invoking worship from the faithful. The bell-like notes invited the dawn, the first ray of which may have been visible from the tower height as it heralded the victory of light over the dark and sleeping world. Soon a voice farther away declared another watchman calling the sleepers to awake and greet the morn. The sweet, vibrant chants continued until day looked in at our window, and the birds chirped and fluttered around the open court, singing their songs of welcome to the light. We too, with joyful hearts, praised God for his great light of revelation and truth. What wonder that the Moslem cannot be swerved from his worship and loyalty to the one God and to his great prophet Muhammad. His first baby lispings were praises and affirmations of him from the sacred Quran. His first consciousness in every day of his life is the voice of man proclaiming, "There is no God but God, and Muhammad is his prophet." That holy basic principle is inculcated line upon line, precept upon precept, at each awakening from sleep, at each beginning of active life, and declared 5 times in each day from his cradle to his grave. It becomes a part of him. From its established throne in his brain, it repels all suggestion of a triune God, and makes his life, whatever it may be in other respects, a fortress against unfaith. It was Sunday, and soon the jangle of chimes sounded from the Syrian church, calling the Christians to early Mass. The morning was beautiful, fresh and still, and the tones of opposing mosque and church sounded only of peace. Alas, that religion should ever bring aught else between God's children. But the military cornet's call told us of the fortified city, and of the soldier ready for attack or defense, for the greed of man and in the name of God. Across the garden the blue sea sparkled with little ripples and washed the base of the rampart wall a few yards away. An old rusty cannon lay on the rock in the corner bastion, telling of war long past, and the guard with his musket walked by the narrow gateway between the corner and the court. In the distance the dark blue mound of Carmel was crowned with rosy mists. All nature spoke of peace, and only man of strife. At 7 o'clock I saw Mirza Asadollah Kashani sweeping the rough and broken stone flight of outside steps as carefully as though they were of alabaster. Another of the friends was dipping from the well and watering the plants of the garden, and others were attending to the needs of the kitchen. The care, earnestness, and pleasure with which these things were done showed the spirit of love in the service. Indeed, it is evident there that service is esteemed a privilege and is a cause of happiness. About 7:30 we had breakfast, bread and honey in the comb, boiled eggs, and tea. Only our party of Americans was there. Afterwards, from our window overlooking the garden, we saw Abdul Baha and Mirza Asadollah walking back and forth on the paths, sometimes stopping and conversing earnestly. I could not but think of a lion pacing in his cage, and a great sympathy and longing to serve him arose in me. Later a soldier came, carrying his gun, delivered a message, and went away. An old man with a cane came to the garden gate, about 50 feet from where Abdul Baha sat in the tent. He bowed low with his hand on his heart, talked a while at that distance, and then, with deepest respect, moved backward through the gate and away. During the days, Abdul Baha had but little time to himself. Visitors, tourists, and officials came and went constantly. One afternoon came 3 black-robed Catholic nuns, one portly woman with a black robe and no headdress, and several ladies unveiled, with olive complexions. They were directed to the tent by the master from his room window, and he met them there later. Some of them spoke French, and some English. One exclaimed, "Oh, madame, look there!" The children, Shogi, Ruhi, and others were playing about the fountain, and altogether it was quite a party. The Sabbath Visit. That was a Sabbath long to be remembered by us. About 10 o'clock we were offered the great privilege of visiting the picture of the Manifestation, Baha'u'llah. How often has imagination tried to outline his face? How eagerly have those been questioned who had looked upon him? How earnestly has the wish been that the knowledge of him and the pilgrimage to his presence might have been made in his day. The picture is a large photograph taken of him during the later years of his life. It is a majestic face, that of a strong, powerful, stern man, yet filled with an indescribable sweetness. Even in the photograph, the majestic power shows through the lines of light and shade. I will not attempt to describe it, nor the solemnity and influence of that visit. No word was spoken. It was a time for silence. I will simply quote the writing of one who saw him in life. The face of him on whom I gazed, I can never forget, though I cannot describe it. Those piercing eyes seemed to read one's very soul. Power and authority sat on that ample brow, while the deep lines on the forehead and face implied an age which the jet-black hair and beard, flowing down in indistinguishable luxuriance almost to the waist, seemed to belie. No need to ask in whose presence I stood, as I bowed myself before one who is the object of a devotion and love which kings might envy and emperors sigh for in vain. Soon after we returned to our room, Abdul-Baha came and again expressed his precious love to us, saying that he was happy that we had seen the picture. He said, "This is a blessed prison, the Holy Land, and you have seen the picture of the Blessed Perfection, and also Abdul-Baha, and we love you. You must be very glad, and we are very glad. I hope the influence of this great thing will appear, and that, when you return to America, by you the Americans will be made happy. The talks I give you are like the seed which they cultivate in the ground. I hope that it will grow, and when it grows up, that it will be very good." Looking out of the window, he said, "Some of the trees in the garden have new leaves, and are very beautiful, and also man, when he comes to have leaves and fruit, it is very good. Man is like the ground or earth. He is the dust, and in this dust, by the bounty of God, grow up so many kinds of flowers, and from him will appear many wonderful things." He then asked one of those present what he would do when he returned to America, and then added, "It is said in the Bible that when Messiah comes, he will come with many angels and with trumpets. We hope you will be that voice of the trumpet when you go to America." End of section 5. Recording by Nicholas James Bridgewater. Recorded in London, England.